If you've ever looked at your bank account and thought, I work hard, so why do I still feel stuck? This is for you. Because here's the punchline nobody teaches in school. You can earn a decent income and still stay broke, if your money is running you instead of you running your money. Today we're breaking down Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and I'm going to give you the ideas in plain English for average people with zero fluff. No get rich quick, no hype, just the mindset shifts that made this book explode. And I want you to listen like your future depends on it, because for a lot of people, it does. Not in some dramatic movie way, in the slow, quiet way where your life becomes payday, bills, stress, repeat. You're not failing, you're just playing a game you were never taught. The author grew up with two father figures. One is what he calls poor dad, highly educated, respected, stable career, believes in the safe path. Get good grades, get a secure job, work hard, and you'll be fine. The other is rich dad, less formal education, but obsessed with how money actually works. And watching these two dads argue about money is like watching two different operating systems. One says, play it safe. The other says, learn the rules. One says, get a raise. The other says, get smarter. One says, your house is your biggest asset. The other says, careful, that might be a trap. Here's why that matters. Most people are trained to do one thing, trade time for money. Clock in, get paid, pay bills, repeat. And the scary part is you can do that your whole life, never miss a day of work, and still end up stressed, in debt, and one emergency away from panic. Rich Dad calls that cycle the rat race. And he says it's powered by two emotions, fear and desire. Fear of not having enough and desire for more stuff. So you work harder because you're afraid, then you spend because you want, then you need to work even harder. It's a treadmill, not a plan. And the biggest scam inside the rat race is lifestyle creep. You get a raise and you think, finally, I can breathe. Then the car gets nicer, the apartment gets bigger, the subscriptions multiply, and suddenly your raise didn't buy freedom, it bought new monthly payments. So the goal of this book isn't become rich to flex, it's build enough financial skill and cash flow so you can buy your freedom back. More time, more options, less stress. Quick disclaimer, education only, not financial advice. Here's what we're covering. 6 lessons. Why the rich don't work for money the same way, the one definition that changes your finances, how to mind your own business, what taxes and corporations have to do with it, how people invent money, and why you should work to learn, not just earn. Now, if you only remember one thing from this whole breakdown, remember this. In Rich Dad's world, everything comes down to a single question. Does it put money in your pocket or take money out? That's the doorway into the most important idea in the book, assets versus liabilities. Let's make this stupidly simple. An asset puts money in your pocket. A liability takes money out of your pocket. That's the definition the book wants you to live by. Not the dictionary, not what your friends call an investment. Cash flow. So instead of asking, is this thing nice, ask, does this thing pay me or do I pay it? Because average people get trapped by labels. They call something an asset because it sounds mature, like a car or a house or a closet full of expensive stuff. But if it drains your account every month, that's not building freedom. That's building a nicer cage. And yes, the book pokes the bear. It challenges the belief that your house is automatically an asset. If your home payment, repairs, taxes, insurance, and upkeep are money going out, then your home can behave like a liability in your cash flow life. You can still love your home. The point is, don't lie to yourself about what it does to your monthly reality. Here's the simplest test. Imagine you stop working tomorrow. What still puts money into your pocket? If the answer is nothing, you don't have assets. You have expenses with better marketing. So what do assets look like for normal people? Think, investments that pay you, a small business that makes profit, a rental that cash flows, royalties, anything that pays you without you being there every single hour. The specific vehicle matters less than the direction of the money. Now here's where most people mess up. They hear buy assets, and they immediately say, I can't afford that. And Rich Dad basically says that sentence is financial poison because it shuts your brain down. It ends the game. He wants you to replace it with, how can I afford it? Not so you can buy random stuff, but so your brain is forced to search for options. Cut an expense, learn a skill, increase income, start smaller, negotiate. Real life example. Someone gets a $300 raise. The rat race move is upgrade the car, upgrade the lifestyle, and the new money disappears. The asset move is automate part of that raise into building your asset column. Same raise, completely different future. So here's a quick exercise you can do tonight. Open your Notes app and make 2 lists. List 1, everything that pays you, even if it's tiny. Interest, side income, anything. List 2, everything you pay for monthly. Rent or mortgage, car, subscriptions, debt payments, eating out, all of it. Now circle the items that increased in the last year. That's lifestyle creep, and it's usually the silent killer. The book's strategy is blunt. Use your job to pay bills, but use your extra money to buy assets. Because once assets start paying you, your life changes. Stress drops. Choices expand. And that sets up the next lesson. If your paycheck is your only engine, you're always one layoff, one illness, or one crisis away from chaos. So Rich Dad says, stop building your boss's dreams. Start building your own asset column. That's mind your own business. Lesson 3 is a slap in the face, in the best way. Rich Dad says most people confuse their profession with their business. Your profession is what you do. Your business is what you own. And if you don't own anything that produces cash flow, then you can work for 30 years and still be financially fragile. He tells you to mind your own business, meaning keep your job if you need it, but don't let your job be your only plan. Your job should fund your life. Your assets should build your freedom. Because the middle-class trap looks like this. You get paid, taxes come out, bills come out, and whatever is left gets spent. Then you cross your fingers and hope the next paycheck shows up on time. That's not a strategy. That's survival. Rich Dad even paints it like a conveyor belt. Money hits your hands and immediately gets grabbed. By taxes, by debt, by payments. And the brutal part is, for employees, the government usually takes its share first. So you're fighting uphill with what's left. So what does mind your business look like for an average person? It looks like building an asset column on the side. It can be simple at first. Paying off high-interest debt to stop the bleeding, building an emergency fund, investing consistently, learning a monetizable skill, or starting a small side hustle that can grow into an asset. Now, lesson 4 is where the book gets spicy: taxes and corporations. Rich Dad points out that historically, taxes were sold as something that would hit the wealthy, but over time, the burden landed heavily on the poor and the middle class. And he argues that wealthy people often use legal structures, like corporations, to protect themselves and legally reduce what they pay. Here's the practical takeaway. Don't copy tactics blindly, but do learn the rules. Learn what a corporation is. Learn what a deductible expense is. Learn the basics of tax-advantaged accounts. Learn how the system rewards certain behavior, like owning assets and building businesses, more than it rewards being an employee. And please hear me, this is not a cheat taxes message. It's a get educated message. If you ever use business structures, do it legally and get professional help. The goal is competence, not shortcuts. Now, the book also drops a mindset grenade. Poor Dad says, study hard so you can find a good company to work for. Rich Dad says, study hard so you can find a good company to buy. That line matters because it changes your identity. Employee mentality asks, who will hire me? Owner mentality asks, what can I own? And once you start thinking like an owner, you start seeing the world differently. You see businesses as machines that produce cash flow. You see assets as workers that don't complain. And you stop chasing raises as your only escape route. Which leads perfectly into lesson 5, because once you start looking for ownership and opportunities, you realize something. Money isn't only earned. Sometimes it's created through deals, timing, and skill. Lesson 5. The rich invent money. Now, don't hear that as do something shady. Hear it as wealthy people train themselves to spot opportunities, structure deals, and make decisions faster than the average person. They don't wait for permission. They don't wait until they feel ready. They learn, they act, they adjust. In the book, inventing money is the ability to look at the same situation everyone else sees and notice value hiding in plain sight. A discount, a mispriced asset, a problem you can solve, a deal you can negotiate. You're not creating money out of thin air. You're creating value with your brain. And here's the uncomfortable truth. Most people don't miss opportunities because they're dumb. They miss opportunities because they're trained to avoid mistakes. So they overthink until the opportunity is gone. Rich Dad's point is that your financial IQ grows by doing, carefully, with small stakes, so you build confidence and pattern recognition. Then lesson 6 is the one most people ignore, but it's the most practical. Work to learn, not just to earn. That means early in your journey, it can be smarter to choose a job or a role that teaches you high-income skills, even if it doesn't pay the maximum immediately. Because skills compound faster than wages. Rich Dad pushes skills like sales and marketing because if you can sell, you can create income anywhere. He also pushes understanding numbers because if you can't read the numbers, you can't tell whether something is a real asset or a beautiful liability. And remember that little mental trick from earlier? Don't let "I can't afford it" in the conversation. Swap it for "How can I afford it?" That question forces your brain to work. It turns frustration into strategy. Now, even with all this knowledge, the book says people still get stuck because of 5 obstacles: fear, cynicism, laziness, bad habits, and arrogance. Fear of losing money. Cynicism that says, "That won't work for me." Laziness that shows up as, "I'm too busy," when it's really a priority problem. Bad habits like spending first and investing last. And arrogance, thinking you already know, so you stop learning. So here's your simple, average person action plan. Not a 47-step manifesto, just a 7-day reset. Day 1. Track every dollar for 24 hours. Get honest. Day 2. Cut 1 leak, 1 subscription, 1 impulse habit, 1 expense. Day 3. Label 10 things you own as asset or liability using the cash flow rule. Day 4. Automate 1 asset habit, debt payoff, investing, or savings. Day 5. Spend 30 minutes learning money basics, taxes, investing, budgeting, pick one. Day 6. Pick 1 skill to level up, sales, negotiation, communication, or a technical skill. Day 7. Set a monthly target. I will add this much to my asset column. Because the real flex isn't a new car. The real flex is waking up on a Monday and realizing you have options. Final recap. The poor and middle class work for money, but the rich build systems where money works for them. The bridge between those two worlds is financial literacy, and the first brick is learning assets versus liabilities.